Hi everyone, it's wonderful to be back again here today, this time to talk about the fourth industrial revolution. So this is one of the global fashion agenda's key focuses of its CEO agenda, which I'm sure you have all seen. It refers to it as the digitization of the value chain and an engagement with other brands, manufacturers and governments to prepare for the transition of workforces. I want to emphasize how important this is. It feels like yet another one of those buzz phrases that's out there, but we really are at the beginning of something that is very real, and it's happening at a pace that I believe very few of us in this industry have paid real attention to as yet. So I'm going to read you a quick passage that comes from the World Economic Forum about this, just to put it all into context a little bit. It says, there are 3 reasons why today's transformations represent not merely a prolongation of the third industrial revolution, but rather the arrival of a fourth and distinct one: velocity, scope, and systems impact. The speed of current breakthroughs has no historical precedent. When compared with previous industrial revolutions, the fourth is evolving at an exponential rather than a linear pace. Moreover, it is disrupting almost every industry in every country. And the breadth and depth of these changes herald the transformation of entire systems of production, management, and governance. 3 very important words, as we know, for our industry. So this has huge potential to make an enormous amount of change for fashion. We know we need this sort of scale of innovation to drive us towards sustainability. And scale as a word has obviously been said many times over the past couple of days. But there's also some question marks and some risks involved with this, which is what we're going to dive into today. So I'm joined by 3 fantastic speakers to do so. To jump straight in, Micheal, let me come to you first. We hear lots of buzz around this phrase, as I mentioned, the fourth industrial revolution. Right. What does it mean in your world at Levi's?
So at Levi Strauss Company, we believe in the potential for technology to help us address the big sustainability and business challenges that we face. You know, our CEO likes to talk about our company as being a 167-year-old startup. We're in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, and Levi's was born when Levi, who was a real person, right, 150 years ago, teamed up with one of his suppliers to create the technological innovation of his day, which was to put rivets on his denim trousers to create a new product, which was the 5-pocket riveted denim jean. That was incredibly durable. It fulfilled the needs of his customer of the day. And today, we're using technology to address key sustainability challenges that we face. One of those is chemicals, right? We use chemicals, and we're part of this ZDHC group of 27 other brands, like some here, right? H&M and Adi and Nike and Puma. And we're eliminating chemicals, hazardous chemicals in our supply chain. But we're focused in denim on one in particular that we use to get the finish on the jeans. That's potassium permanganate. Probably doesn't mean much to you, but workers spray it on the jeans to get these looks that we like. So we want to eliminate that, and we gave that challenge to our innovation team. And they came up with a way to get this look without using the chemical. They use laser technology instead of the chemicals. So what we did, we set up lasers close to the market, and at the manufacturing plant, we don't make all the different finishes. We make what we call blanks, right? It's a basic stone-washed finish that gets shipped to the market where we laser it. The laser only takes 90 seconds to get this look. So the business benefit, or actually the sustainability benefit, is cleaner jobs, safer jobs at the production level, and the factory only needs to produce a basic product, so it's easier to level the production, which is what we want from a worker perspective. We ship that to the market. Since it's only a blank, we need to carry less inventory because we finish it very close to market, and we create a lot more speed to the consumer, and the laser gives us higher quality. We have cleaner, safer production, less inventory, faster to market, and better quality. It's a sustainability win and a business win.
And I think that's really interesting. The panel that I moderated yesterday was talking about the fact that we needed to prove the business case for sustainability in terms of attracting investment. And I'm really big on this idea that technology can help lead us to efficiency, something that saves money or saves time, brings that ability, to, as you said, to be more flexible to demand, thus hopefully reducing waste as well. Feels very, very real here. But in the same sense, when we then look at speeding things up, doesn't that then potentially mean a significant amount of job losses potentially on the horizon? And we hear all sorts of stats around here. There's one that says that up to 90% of garment workers in some countries will lose their jobs as a result of automation. Dan, to come to you for your perspective on this, this is what you focus on very wholeheartedly.
So I think when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution for the fashion industry, really about 90% of it is what we're imagining it might be. If we ask what we really know about the future, it's not so much. We know we're all going to get older. We know the climate's going to heat up. But one of the things that I think is also pretty clear is that technology is affecting the industry in a very uneven way. And in those places where most people work, technology is not really coming in very quickly at all. So most of it is at the moment, is about disrupting retail. It's about changing logistics. It's about benefits to consumer. So my concern with fourth industrial revolution is really, what's it going to do for the workers that make the products that we wear? And I think if the fourth industrial revolution needs to deliver for anyone, it's for workers who still don't enjoy their fundamental rights, as we heard a little bit before lunch. So I think the good news is that this industry is going to continue to create millions of jobs in places that really badly need them. But if we want to understand the real transformational impact of technology, the question is, how does it drive decent work and good jobs? Because what's transformational about this industry, in the way that Paul Pullman talked yesterday, is it has the ability to lift millions, hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. The difference between a bad job and a good, safe, well-paid job, where workers are not discriminated with, is transformational, not just for the workers, but the communities. So I would argue for a people-centered approach to technology, putting humans in command. Let's talk about the future of work that we want and need in this industry, and let's design the technology solutions that deliver it.
So essentially you believe the idea that technology really can lead to a position where the workers are the people that win from this.
Yeah, and I think when the conversation develops, I think we'll hear that actually in the successful examples, technology is displacing jobs, but it's creating them. But a key success factor is, are workers involved? Are workers, to a certain extent, in control? Are they thought of as part of the change process and engaged in it? And I think in the cases I hear, those things are true. But I'm looking down the supply chain, I'm seeing lots of manufacturers who are not innovating, and there's still, garment production is pretty much the same as it was some time ago. So the question is, how do we use technology to drive outcomes there?
Which is a great segue to you, Ogo, in your role as head of innovation at ISCO. Presumably you look pretty heavily at this space in terms of automation. What kind of thing are you doing specifically, and how have you seen that evolve?
Okay, we run basically one of the most automated denim productions in the world. So, but as Dan said, we've been doing a lot of work trying to figure out how this change, this automation, will affect jobs, because our business is with people, right? From a consumer perspective, and also people that work for our company. So what we've been trying to do is automate, but we haven't seen any jobs that were lost. We were able to shift people around, and we did that through a couple of different things. First of all, we are trying to educate our workers on how to do different jobs. And the group that we are part of also is running a university for multiple different disciplines. Obviously, we need more people. And we're one of the few denim companies that has a union. And we're working together with the union to reshape those jobs. So we haven't really seen automation eliminate jobs. But I also share the view that you really need managers, people that are managing this, to have a vision, not a short-term vision, but a 5, 10, 15-year vision, so that we can do this technology revolution in a responsible way. As Dan said it very correctly, everything we do is about people. And we can't afford to lose the job securities and people's comfort level. So even with technology advancing, we need to be aware that we're advancing these technologies for the people. It's not just automation just for the sake of automation. So yeah, you need to be competitive. We need to automate, especially the very repetitive jobs. But as I said, you can educate people and people that work for you so that you can find different jobs within the same company. And we've seen that.
Yeah.
Dan, to come back to you on that point, because I'm sure you have lots to add there. I think one of the things that's interesting, about the two people that are sat either side of you right here is that we are talking about businesses that are very advanced in terms of the way that they think about this space, and that's obviously not necessarily the case when we look through the entirety of the rest of the supply chain. So, from your perspective, in terms of using technology to get to a place where the workers are the people that benefits, whose responsibility is that to make it a reality?
Yeah, great question. I think if, we often hear about technology in this sector and in others, like the robots are taking over, or we're all victims of technological advancement, and what we need to do is react to it. And I think, what I just heard from a world-class denim manufacturer whose business case is built on innovation in the sector, is that we need to think ahead, that we need to plan ahead, that it's got to involve the workers, that we've got to think through this from multiple perspectives. And so I think that calls for a really big conversation in the fashion industry. And I think the opportunity of discussing it here and it being part of the CEO agenda is it requires absolute leadership. And I'll start with leadership from big brands and designers in the sector, okay? But it's not just with them. It's also leadership from manufacturers and employers in the sector. But it has to be a conversation that engages with trade unions, with workers' organizations. I know in your own business, Urgil, that's a really important part of the change process, the dialogue with the trade union. And to plan what jobs will look like, to plan the skills that workers will need to adapt to them, to plan how you upgrade jobs and prepare workers for that. And it's absolutely key. We've seen from other sectors that when technology comes in, it can widen and not close the gender pay gap. It can lead to greater discrimination, not less. So we really need to have that big conversation in this forum and beyond, and begin to see commitments on the future of work and how we use technology within it. It's a collaboration that we talked about before lunch. It involves all key actors in the industry, but we've got to put workers and people at the center of this agenda if we want to have the impact on the social side that this industry is capable of.
Micheal, from your point of view, a lot of other people in the room here obviously come from brands as well. And I think one of the things that's quite interesting, about when we talk about this subject is, as Dan rightly said, 90% of it really is a sort of fantasizing about the potential. And there's a lot to be said, obviously, about doing things the right way. But from your point of view, with the technology that's there, what do you think that the real potential could be of this in terms of where we're going? Are we actually talking about a future where everything that is currently done by hand on a sewing machine is ultimately done by some sort of sew bot, that we obviously see bits of innovation happening around? But is that a very real reality that is somewhere that this industry is going to move to?
I think one of the things that we were talking about backstage is, and as Dan mentioned, the pace of this technological innovation has been slow in the apparel sector. We are really trying to drive the innovation around the solutions for sustainability challenges, whether it's creating cleaner, safer jobs for workers, addressing chemical issues, carbon issues, or water issues. And one of the things that we're seeing is this transformation, I would say, in the apparel supply chains around cleaner, safer, more sustainable technologies, right? We go to factories like yours and we see these new washing machines, right? Who's been to a factory 10, 15 years ago, right? Right? Who's been to a factory, right? You used to go and you see water all over the floor in the laundry, right? Today you don't see, in those old belly washers, you don't see that anymore. Today you have these, right? High efficiency, high energy efficiency, high water efficiency washing machines, right? They take the water from the bottom, take it up to the top of the machine, they create this mist that wets it enough to have an effective finish, right? They call them rainforest machines like that. So we see this technology happening. It's creating, I think, a quiet revolution in sustainable manufacturing in the industry. But, you know, to your question, envisioning that future, we can envision many different things. But I think that day that you're describing is quite a ways off. I think coming back to Dan's point, it's how do we plan for that future? How do we start thinking about what are we designing for? What are we solving for? Our company has a philosophy of profits through principles. How do we do the right thing? How do we focus on the right thing? And what we've found is solving for these sustainability challenges, whether it's creating cleaner, safer jobs or water or chemicals, creates a constraint that leads to innovation that not only solves these issues, but it can also help our business.
Yeah. For me, sustainability, I think, is the longest term project with the shortest term outputs. So we're working on constantly improving our sustainability. And I don't foresee that ending ever until we are like 100% safe. We do have a lot of short-term outputs where we're much more cleaner and we're much more responsible. But even that has good opportunities for people that are doing this because they get to work in a better environment, they get to live in a better environment, and as you just earlier put it, for example, the laser technology can actually have some health benefits to the people that do this job. And as we advance, we're seeing not less jobs, but more opportunities for people. And if we can help people that work for us seize those opportunities by giving them better training, better living conditions, we see that technology is not a limiting factor, but actually an opportunity. It's just, I have to say this again, you have to have a vision of the future. And not one company can do this together. It's a whole chain that needs to work on this, including the governments, which are really slow on this, but I have to say, it needs to be a complete, full circle effort.
Yeah. So just picking up on that, I think it's a very good point. The question's often asked, why is the garment sector not changing as quickly as other sectors? And I think there are many answers to that. But one of them, when I talk to manufacturers around the world, they'll say, look, I just don't have sight of my order book. I don't have a long-term future of my business because I'm living 6 months to 6 months in terms of where my business is at. And what the technology delivers is something far beyond that. But I think this point about there needs to be a long-term future in every workplace, in every place, about what's coming, about where people are, I would say, where environment is in this equation and how to plan for it is missing. The technology and change is happening to the garment sector by and large. It's often being delivered by disruptors from outside and not from those within it who are running the industry. And so I think there is a need, absolutely, for big conversations at national level to look ahead and see what is coming and to look at what the policy instruments and tools are that we can really manage this change in a way that drives decent work and inclusive economic growth. You know, the very special thing about this industry, if you look ahead, it will employ tens of millions of people, regardless of technology change, in the decade ahead. And what do we know about those people? They are young, they are women, they are migrants, they are almost all at the bottom 40% of the world's poor. They are the people we need to include in economy to achieve the goals we want to about eradicating poverty. It is a prerequisite to sustainable development that those jobs be good jobs. And I think that the conversation here says, look, we have to drive that that change together. We have to look ahead, and we have to look at the opportunity of technology to drive that outcome. It's a business thing, it's a government thing, it's a trade union thing, and we need to get on it now.
Dan, you mentioned something that just a moment ago that I want to respectfully disagree with.
Oh, good.
I don't think the change is being done to us. Actually, our experience is we have these sustainability challenges out there, and we go to our suppliers, we go to other startups, we bring in some startups and incubate them in-house through this program we have called the Collaboratory, and we ask them to solve our challenges. And we also meet with VCs, and we tell the VCs, these are the challenges that we're trying to solve for in the sustainability space, because they want to know, because that's what they want to fund. We're the customer. So I think we in the industry have the power, and we should exert that leadership to say, this is what we're trying to solve for, whether it's more positive working conditions, safer conditions, whether it's environmental sustainability around the climate. We have the power to mobilize the venture capital, the investment, as well as the startup technology to solve for our issues. And we, as an industry, should exercise that power.
Right.
Yeah, agreed. I mean,
Yeah, should.
I think it's very interesting, to use the word power is very interesting when we're also talking about responsibility, and there's a very well-known phrase from a very well-known film that sits very nicely there. And we're almost out of time, but to wrap this, I do want to kind of finish on this idea of responsibility, really. And Olga, you mentioned this notion that you've brought innovation into your business at large. You told me backstage there were 2,500 factory workers within ISCO specifically, and with all of this innovation, you have retained 2,500 and obviously moved people around, as you mentioned earlier, and focused on that education piece. I mean, what is the responsibility here for the industry at large in terms of focusing on upskilling workers when we know that this technology is coming, whether it is being done to us or the other way around? Mm-hmm. To any of you, that one.
I think there's a responsibility to look ahead, just as Ergol said. I think there's a responsibility to accept that change is coming, that it's coming in different forms, and to really look ahead and to begin to make plans and commitments and to garment-producing countries and markets to look at how work will be different in the future and to plan for that in a way that maximizes the social and environmental impact. I think that's responsibility, and I think it's an agenda that is growing within business. We're beginning to see more commitments that look ahead in terms of how jobs should be. I think that's a key responsibility and a key part, I think, of what the CEO agenda of the future should be.
I think our responsibility as a fashion industry is to use our power, but to also use our imagination.
yeah.
To what both of you have said, our imagination about what can that future look like? What are the positive possibilities that we've been talking about for the past 2 days? How do we combine our power and imagination to create together? This is a great panel, although it's a manel, so that I apologize for. But we partner with our vendors, with the workers, with international organizations, with the trade unions to create that future that we can imagine.
One final point.
Very quickly, anticipate, adapt, and empower people to do the same throughout the organization and throughout the supply chain. I think that's going to be the key for us to move forward.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much to these guys for joining us.
Thank you.